Hi class, and welcome to our lesson on Buck strategy for solving word problems. Go ahead and get this sheet and let's jump right into it. So in this unit, we're going to see a lot more word problems, and on your end of the year test, you're also going to see a lot more real world problems. And I wanted to give you some tools to use to solve those problems effectively. So this is the Buck strategy. The first thing you will do is box the main question. Okay, so when you read your problem, you will put a box around the main question. Next, you will underline the important information needed to solve the problem. So anything that you feel is important. You're going to circle important vocabulary words used in the problem that will help you better be able to solve it. And then you're going to knock out any information that isn't important by crossing it out. Okay? Lastly, you're going to solve by drawing a picture or a diagram. You all know that I've said several times that drawing a picture is a great way to solve a problem. Okay? So let's jump into our first problem using this strategy. I'm going to go through the first problem. I'm going to model for you how you would go about using the Buck strategy in this situation. So problem number 1 says that David and Ryan were playing a game. After the first round, Ryan had 400 points and David had 300 points. After the second round, Ryan's point total increased by 300 points and David's point total decreased by 400 points. Which statement best represents the boys' point totals after the changes? Okay, and of course this is multiple choice. So at the end I'm going to narrow down to one best option. Okay, the first thing I'm going to do is box the main question. The main question here is, which statement best represents the boys' points total after the changes? Okay, which statement best represents? Alright, next thing I'm going to do is underline any important information I need, and I'm actually going to use a different marker to do that. So the first thing I think is important is that they're playing a game. And I'm going to use that when I actually draw my little diagram down here. First round to me is important. Ryan had this amount. David had that amount. Second round, Ryan's points increased by this amount. David's points decreased by this amount. Okay? Next thing I'm going to do is circle important vocabulary words. The first thing that I think is important is total, because that means we're summing everything up. And then increase. Okay? Increase to me means we're adding. And decrease, if some points decrease, that means we're subtracting. Okay? And then I think which statement best represents the boys' point totals after the change. I think that's important because that lets us know what we're looking for. Okay? So, knock out any information that isn't important by crossing out. I actually think that all this information is important, so I'm not going to knock anything out of this particular problem. Okay? Finally, I'm going to solve by drawing a picture. So, like we said before, David and Ryan are playing a game, and so when I think of a game, I think of points. So I'm going to write David, I'm going to write Ryan. I'm going to draw a line to symbolize the fact that I'm taking points. After the first round, Ryan had 400 points. David had 300 points. Okay? After the second round, it says Ryan point total increased by 300. Increase to me means we're adding, or it's positive, so it increased by 300. So essentially, we can write this equation for Ryan. 400 plus 300, because his points increased by 300 points in the second round. Okay? And David's points, they decreased by 400. Decrease means we're going down, so we're subtracting. So I could rewrite this long form as 300 minus 400. Okay? Because the points decreased. Now this asks which statement best represents the boys' total points after the changes. Well, this is simple right here. 400 plus 300, I know it's going to be 700. So I know that I'm looking for anything that says Ryan scores 700. And so that means I can eliminate B and I can eliminate D. Now I have to figure out which is which, okay? If I think about integer rules in order to figure out how many points David has, I can see that this needs to be rewritten as addition. So I'm going to say 300 plus parentheses negative 400. Okay? Now I don't have to draw a bunch of dashes because at this point I know that if I drew a whole bunch of dashes, I'm going to have less positive dashes and more negative dashes. And that means I'm going to be left with negative dashes. So I know my final answer is going to be negative simply because the negative is this 400. Okay? So, also if I simplify this, I know that 3 minus 4 or 3 plus negative 4 is going to be negative 1. Okay? So with that being said, all I'm doing here is putting 2 zeros at the end. So the answer to this problem will actually be negative 100. That's how many points David ended up with. And so that means that my final answer is going to be C. And that's how I solved my problem. So this is an example of how I want you to solve your problems. I want to see where you've marked everything up according to the book strategy. I want to see where you've kind of drawn out a diagram to kind of illustrate what you're doing. And then I want to see where you eliminated some of the answer choices to determine the final answer choice. Now, we're going to work this problem together. So as I'm doing it, I want you to do it with me as well. And let's see if we both arrive at the same answer. Problem number 2 states that blueberries cost $2.50 per pound at a grocery store. A customer has a coupon for 50 cents off the total cost of the blueberries. What will the customer pay for 7 pounds of blueberries? So the first thing I'm going to do is box the main question. The main question here is, what will the customer pay for 7 pounds of blueberries? Okay? Alright, next thing I'm going to do is underline important information. Well, I need to know the blueberry cost. It's important that they have a coupon and that it's a coupon off the total. So those are important information to me. I'm going to circle important vocabulary words, okay? This per is important. If something is $2.50 per pound, that means we're pretty much multiplying. This is multiplication words. Okay? I think it's important that this coupon is 50 cents off. That means we're going to subtract from the total, 50 cents. Okay? Now, I'm going to knock out information I don't need, and I think every bit of information in this problem is needed, so I'm not going to knock anything out. The final question says, what will the customer pay for 7 pounds of blueberries? So, the first thing I'm going to do is go ahead and draw my diagram. So, when I think of blueberries, I think of a little blueberry container with all the blueberries stacked on top. And I know that for 1 bucket of blueberries is $2.50. Okay? Per pound. So let's say that this is 1 pound, which we recognize with the symbol LB. Okay? 1 pound of blueberries is $2.50. The final question says, what will the customer pay for 7 pounds of blueberries? Okay? So if this is the amount for 1 pound, then I need to multiply this. I'm going to use another marker. I need to multiply this by 7. Okay? Because I want 7 pounds of blueberries. So that means I'm going to come to the side. I'm going to say 250 times 7. Okay? I know that this is going to be 0. This is going to be 5. Carry my 3. This is going to be 14. 17. Bring down, well, excuse me. My decimal is 2 spaces over. So I'm going to go 2 spaces over here with my decimal. And so, for 7 pounds, it's going to cost $17.50. But I'm not done here because none of my answers say $17.50. Plus, there's some extra information that I forgot to use. A customer has a coupon for 50 cents off. So that means I'm going to take that coupon and I'm going to subtract that from this amount. So that's going to be 0.50. And that's going to end up being $17. Even. So I know that my final answer here is going to be C, $17. Okay? Now that you have worked these problems with me, I want you to flip on the back. And I want you to solve these problems in the same manner in which you saw me solving the first two problems with the buck strategy. When you're finished, raise your hand and I will check you off. And then you will get started on your next activity. See ya!